The biggest lessons I've learned in my life are here. Through different topics, I'm going to inspire and motivate you to reach your success and your dreams. I'm so grateful that you're here on Journey to Success. So let's enjoy my next episode together. Hey, Catherine, Fabio here from the Fabio Podcast, From Failure to Success. How are you today?
I'm doing very well today. Thank you.
All right. So before we begin, I want to express my genuine happiness to have you here with us. It's truly remarkable for me talking with people who achieve success in areas where many others give up, making maybe excuses. So today we specifically focus on the condition of morbid obesity. But before we go into that, would you like to share a bit about your life before facing this condition?
Well, I am originally from Michigan in the United States. And when I was 10 years old, my family moved to East Africa. And I came back to Michigan as a college student. I would say that it was the beginning of my journey towards obesity, and that mine was related to stress and the hormonal changes that occurred as a relationship to that stress. And so starting from university, then going to medical school, then residency, getting married, having 2 children in 3 years, the combination left me an insulin-dependent diabetic and also very overweight, and my body did not like it very much. And then what happened, I went into congestive heart failure from my pregnancy. And it was then that I really had to come to terms with my health. I was given a 50% chance of living 5 years, and that was 22 years ago. So clearly I was successful, but
Wow.
But it left me, when trying to get help, I was often turned away and often made to feel very ashamed of how I was. And so I decided then that if I survived everything, that I was going to start a practice where I could help other people who were in my situation, and in a way where they felt comfortable, where they felt that they weren't being judged. And in the process of changing my health, I learned so much more than what I had in medical school. And I use that now. I became the doctor I needed, and I now help other people with their journey.
Beautiful. So evidently maybe you just needed these whatever happened to you, and now we're going to discover actually. So you needed this trigger to become the person that you are right now.
Yes. It definitely the trigger to give me the purpose I needed right purpose. Now. I've always wanted to be a doctor. I've always wanted, since I was 8 years old, I've always wanted to help people. And I've always felt that I wanted to be the type of person that helped the whole person. And yes. I use what's called a biopsychosocial approach. And so it's important, yes, to focus on the biology. And that's what medical school is for. But then there's also the psychology, the psychological makeup of people, and the social environment that we all live in that contributes to our lives that is really important to pay attention to. And so I do all of that, and I paid attention to all of that, not just for other people, but also for myself. I still do that.
Wow. And what was the cause? I mean, was more something genetic, or there was some external trigger that initiated this condition?
It was both. Both. As we can see with many things, it's a combination of nature and genetics, and also it's situational. So there are people who can gain the same amount of weight that I did, who would not become diabetic. There are many people who probably would have been the exact same. Well, there were people who were in the exact same stressful situations that I was in, whose bodies did not react in a hormonal way, so they didn't gain the weight that I gained. I've been doing this now for many years, over 20 years. And what I see is that you can take two people, you can feed them the exact
Mhm.
same amount, you can have them doing the exact same amount of exercise, and you'll see one person will react one way and the other person will react another, and that's genetics. And so that's where it's almost like a perfect storm is created with the combination of your genetics in a certain environment that triggers everything.
Yeah, yeah, and I totally believe in this. As you said, it's both reasons, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I believe that's about genetic, but I also believe that we exaggerate as well. I'm gonna take myself as an example, right? So with my partner, okay, the first time that we met, we had different ways to eat, different habits.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the first year, the first year and a half, we were combining both habits, right? So I'm Italian, she's Dutch, half Capo Verde, and here in the Netherlands they eat at a certain time around 6 o'clock, maybe also five sometimes. And an Italian person used to eat in the evening at 8 o'clock, half past seven. Well, South Italian person maybe, and lunch also different. So they used to eat in brunch, the brunch at 11 o'clock. I used to eat at 1 o'clock. So what we used to do after a while was truly combine the habits. But what we noticed after 1 year is that I was gaining weight, of course, kind of like 6-7 kilos more than I used to have, but she was the same, so didn't impact her weight. So it was very weird, you know. So at that point is where you understand something about genetic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's truly something something from gene. It
Mm-hmm.
can't be different. Also, I'm a man. I mean, they say that men usually eats they need more food than a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But didn't matter. And right now, after 3 years and a half, I sometimes eat a little bit less for the brunch. You know, maybe she eats two breads and I eat just one bread, and to be in line. That's truly where is the genetic. But as I said, I think it's not only that. I think there
No,
is also,
it's never
uh,
just genetics.
yeah,
However,
yeah,
what happens, I think what it is also, when people talk about behavior, they only talk about the mechanical behavior, meaning how much you eat. But what I'm talking about is talking about the drivers for appetite. That is definitely genetic. So there's three components. So you have your biology, but your biology also affects your what your body does with food,
yeah,
but your relationship with food as well, and your ability to avoid certain foods. If you're only eating something out of habit, it's very easy to then stop it. But if you're eating out of your body telling you you need to eat it, then it sets up cravings. It sets up behavioral issues, and it's a psychological thing. And so often what happens, particularly under stress, particularly with certain genetic components, particularly with hormones, is that it acts on your brain itself to make you eat. So it becomes more of a compulsion. And so when we think of it in terms of other behaviors, we recognize it for what it is. But when it comes to food, somehow we tie it to a personal failing rather than it
yeah,
being the same reason that people smoke, the same reason people, drink alcohol, the same reason people use drugs. It's the same thing. And that happens more than I think we realize. And mainly the reason we don't realize it is simply because of what it's tied to. When we think obesity, we tend to think it's more of a social construct and how we react to it.
Yeah.
And so it's a
Yeah.
combination of all things. What you described was biologic as well as social.
Mm.
And so, it takes all of those things to control it. So, what my feeling is that it may not be as much of an issue as people say it is, but it is definitely one of the ways to help control and get people under control and back to health or to health, using that tools in order to control that aspect of weight gain.
It's interesting. Well, back to my example, you say something true. Actually, I'm a person who work from home all day. I only go out to do my 30 minutes or 40 minutes gym.
Mm-hmm.
But in my empty times in the house, I used to eat
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, after 1 hour, maybe I used to take some chocolate, and after 2 hours, maybe I used to take something else. And that's, of course, affect the body. Something that I'm doing right now, and it's clearly helpful, is every time I'm hungry, I just drink water,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm good for lunch and dinner. So that's also something very important. People don't talk so much about how much drink water is important,
Mm-hmm.
So, and the people don't drink so much. I don't drink so much either, but I notice that it's very important to keep clean the body, but also to throw away things that they are there, and they shouldn't be there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a good help to lose also weight. Or am I wrong?
No, it is true. But what water does, it does a lot of different things. It helps your body to digest food better so that you absorb the nutrients from the food that you eat, so that it sends the message to your brain that you have eaten. Many times our cravings are based on things that we need, certain vitamins, micronutrients that we need. And so we crave certain things because that particular food has what our body needs. And what water does is it helps us, that helps those micronutrients, those vitamins, those minerals to become more available to us. And so that helps. The other is, like you mentioned, there's a mechanical component. When your stomach stretches, it sends another message to your brain saying that you've eaten, that you're full, and therefore to stop eating or to stop drinking. And so drinking water helps with that. It also helps flush the kidneys of toxins. It helps the liver. It helps digestion. I mean, avoiding and just getting all the extras left over out of the body. What water does not also, well, the other thing that water does is that it makes you hydrated. Sometimes when we're dehydrated, it sends a message to our brain that we're hungry instead of thirsty. And so being hydrated helps with that. However, what it doesn't do is when there's a central component being driven by hormones and being driven by what is called glucose dysregulation, our body's ability to determine how much we should eat, when we should eat, what we should eat. There is our brain is very sensitive to certain chemicals, and water will not change that. And so
Right.
that's the only part where water won't play a role. But in every other aspect, yes, it plays a huge role.
But I mean, okay, catch it. But I mean, in your case, you mentioned something very important before. You said that in your case was, yes, genetic, but also there was an external trigger, as understood. So
Mm-hmm.
what was this trigger, Catherine, in your
So what
case?
it was stress. So what stress does in the
Stress.
body is it raises the cortisol, the hormone cortisol. And what cortisol does is it pushes the body towards diabetes. If
Okay.
you're already predispositioned through genetics, through other things to be diabetic, it can push you completely into diabetes. And that's what happened to me. I have a very strong family history of diabetes. So the other thing that cortisol does, it starts a vicious cycle of making your body unable to regulate the one thing that makes you gain weight. So you gain weight, it makes that regulation worse. And so your cortisol levels then go up even higher, which then makes it even worse. And it starts this very vicious cycle. And it's very hard to break because it's not related to muscle. It's not related to food. It's just related to your body's reaction to food. And so when trying to watch your eating and exercising and all these things, it doesn't work because the cause isn't because of eating too much. The cause isn't from not being active. The cause is hormonal. And so you have to go after the hormonal cause. And there's very few things that can do that. But learning to relax, learning how to handle stress, which many of us don't ever learn. And it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of time for your body to react in the way it's supposed to. And so for me, being in medical school, having small children, being married, it was just, and having
Yeah.
new jobs. And, it was very, very difficult to find the space in order to relax. And so and then it gets to a point where you're too far gone. You're beyond the point where um, your behaviors alone can bring you back. And that's where medication comes in. And I had gotten to that point.
Before we go through, if you're enjoying this podcast, please consider taking just 3 seconds to share it with someone else. It is a small gesture that could make a big difference in someone's day. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode.
All right. So you use medicines as well after a while because it was too much to control this circle.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you want to break it,
Yes.
and the decision to take medicine was right at the time, or if actually right now with your mindset that you have right now, maybe you would have reacted differently, or it's something necessary in your opinion
It was very
anyway.
necessary. One, it was necessary because I became pregnant, and being an uncontrolled diabetic with pregnancy, it's very difficult. So pregnancy can also push you farther into diabetes. And so I had to protect my baby.
Yeah,
And so
of
I went on
course.
medication to protect my baby. But as a physician who treats diabetes, my feeling is always use all the tools at your disposal. Yes, there are ways you can do it that are difficult, but why make it difficult? So my feeling, the analogy I use is this: we could all walk to the store everywhere, or walk and then carry our groceries back home. But many of us choose to drive there instead because it makes it easier to get there and easier to get back. If you decide
Gotcha.
you want to walk, then you slowly start building up your ability to do that and your tolerance, but nobody bothers. And it's the same thing with treatment. If you have a way of treating something so that the damage to your body is not continuous, and then you decide how you'd like to use other tools, that's fine. And in fact, when you treat something, those other tools are more effective and they're easier to do because the body's not fighting on so many different fronts anymore. And so I'm always an advocate of treatment when necessary, when treatment when able, and then you work on the other things once you've got the main problem under control.
All right, all right. Well, when you were pregnant, you said that you had a pregnancy-related congestive heart failure as well,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and of course, this condition was related to the weight.
Possibly. My weight definitely made it worse. The more weight you carry, the more work your heart has to do. And
All
so I
right.
knew that once you have congestive heart failure, the heart repairs itself or it doesn't. I couldn't control what happened to my heart. And I could control my diabetes up to a point, but I knew I could try and lose weight. I knew the only thing I could focus on at that point was my weight. And so I knew that diabetes and weight are tied together. And so I worked really, really hard to get my diabetes under control with diet. I couldn't exercise because of my heart, but I used medication and I used diet. And eventually lost weight to the point where I was able to come off the medication.
All right. What was I mean, what did you feel with the congestive heart failure? Like, what was the feeling? It was like a regular heartbeat. What was it?
It was shortness of breath. It felt like I was drowning when awake.
Okay. Wow.
Um, my lungs were filling with filled. When you have congestive heart failure, the type that I have, your lungs fill with fluid, and so you get very, very short of breath very, very easily. So at that time, I couldn't stand up and brush my teeth at the same time. I couldn't walk and carry my baby at the same time. I just didn't have the physical capacity to do a lot of what we take for granted.
Well, no, yeah. Sorry. Go,
No,
Catherine.
I was just going to say that, when your heart starts to fail, it affects every
Yeah.
single other organ system in your body, including your brain, including your moods, everything.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean, you had a different issue. I think after a while, you just decide, you know what, I'm done. I want to lose weight. I think was something like that, or was more a process, a step by step, that made you decide to lose weight. So it was more a trigger that say to you, you know what, I'm gonna lose weight, or was more a slow process.
Well, it was a trigger. Well, this is the thing what happened. I knew losing weight was the only thing I could control. Everything
Yeah.
else was out of my control what triggered was that I had two babies and I wanted to see them
All
grow up,
right.
and I was being told that I may never see them grow up. And so I focused on my weight, but I focused really on getting my diabetes under control as best I could. I wasn't doing the cooking, grocery shopping, or any of that. My husband had to take over everything. And, so he was very strict. But even with his strictness of keeping my food the way it should be, it only did so much. Um, I realized also at that time, as a physician, I test for this a lot and I treat it a lot, that I was severely depressed, which is common after pregnancy, which is also common with heart disease. And so I decided to start also by treating my depression. And so the combination of treating my depression gave me the motivation and the discipline I needed to then focus on my diabetes, to then focus on my weight loss, and then got me to a point where I could, where I started improving
Yeah.
physically. My heart started improving.
Okay. So it was a combination of different things that put
Hmm.
you out from this circle, as I
Yes.
understood. I think
Hmm.
especially the children. I think that was maybe the main reason, I guess.
Hmm. It was. And the other, though, is at that time, we did not have the medications we have now to help with
Yeah.
obesity. Had I had those things for me then, I would have used them. I just didn't have them then. They didn't come into, this was in 2001. They became medication in 2005. They didn't become pretty well known. I didn't start using them as a doctor until about 2013, 2014. And so, I know we talk a lot about them now, but we've actually been using them for years and years. And so
Okay.
when I started having issues as I started getting older, it became harder and harder for me to keep my diabetes under control. So when I had to go back on medication to keep my diabetes under control, I used what are now called the GLP-1s or the peptides. That actually unexpectedly made me lose a lot of weight. This was long before it was actually using those medications for diabetes that made us realize how effective they were with weight loss.
Okay.
And this
Wow.
was many years. This was over 10 years ago.
Okay, super. Well, you went through a lot, but I mean, you are a new woman now, right?
Yes.
So who is now Catherine Toomer? Catherine Toomer, right?
Yes, Catherine
All
Toomer.
right.
Right
So
now,
who
what
are
I
you?
am is I am very, very, very passionate about helping people maximize their health through weight loss. And I'm very passionate about people not feeling ashamed by what the
Yeah.
tools they need to use in order for that to happen. As long as they are healthy tools, as long as it's done in a healthy way and it is for their health, it is very important that we provide an environment where people can do that without feeling ashamed. And that is who Catherine Toomer is right now. I'm still a mom. I watched my daughters graduate from college and now on to their
Ah,
master's degrees.
that's great.
I've been married 30 years and, which is, the fact that I'm lived long enough for that to happen. I'm essentially living the life I said I would live if I survived what I did survive. And that's where I am right now.
Lovely, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing your powerful story. Really. Before we conclude, is there anything else you would like to add or say to the people?
That for everyone's journey is different, and that whatever your journey is, whatever you have to do, you just give yourself grace and understand and not compare yourself to someone else in their journey. That it has to fit within your life and how your life is and what's best for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Catherine. Really,
Thank
thanks,
you.
and take care.
And thank you for having me.
Here we are. Congratulations. You just finished my entire episode. So, the only thing I ask is to take a moment to give Journey to Success a rating. By the way, thank you so much for being here on Journey to Success. I'm very grateful. Thank you and see you next time.